Hey guys, I wanted to make a quick video on how you could clean and sterilize your room after you're done with your harvest. Some tips and tricks, some stuff that I do. I got cyanobacteria from somebody who sold me some teens and it got everywhere, so I'm hoping this what I did works. If it does, I'll report back on the comments. So basically this is the steps I followed, right? So I obviously emptied all the plants, drained all the water out. I'm gonna explain that part too. What I did most importantly is I used bleach. So this system here takes about 65 to about 80 gallons, about 80 gallons to the top, where you guys see those little, till about here. Okay, so I filled it up with about 85 gallons of water, and I added about 1 to 1.5 gallons of bleach. Now there are some instructions on Current Culture's website that states you could do 1 to 100 ratio. In that case, for 85 gallons, I would have to put 0.85 gallons of bleach. So I put a little bit, almost twice as much, just to get everything out. And honestly, the amount of stuff that cleaned, it was amazing. I liked it. Now, some steps, right? Do remove your air stones out of the buckets. That's what I did initially. I took all my air stones out. I put them in a different bucket. Filled it with like 30% bleach and like the rest water. You could do 50, doesn't matter. I let the air stones sit for like a day, about a day, took them out, cleaned them again, and then put them back in here. Now, so first run, I added, like I said, emptied all the water out, all the dirty water, and refilled it with clean water, added the bleach, and I let it cycle for about 24 hours, okay? And then I emptied that out, added another, again, same level of water again, and this time I used a little less bleach because I had less, not because of any reason, and let it run for another day. I know it takes a while, but if you had any kind of bacteria or anything, better be safe than sorry. So another question came up, somebody asked me, is how do you, while you're running the system or now, how do you drain all the water out? Because as you can see, in my system, there is no drain out system, okay? So this is the process that follows with me. This is my main tank, okay? Water fills from here, travels down this 2-inch PVC, comes and tees off into these two buckets, and then afterwards each bucket is connected to the next one with another 2-inch bulkheads, and so on and so on. Same on this side, runs all the way to the back. Now I'm going to go over here and I want to show you guys what I mean by this. So how does the water go and come back? So every bucket connects to the next one with a 2-inch PVC and a 2-inch bulkhead, runs all the way back here. Sorry guys, I have my straw net up already. And these last two buckets are mine. So they connect from here and they connect from here. This is the important part, right? So I have a 2-inch T that I have reduced down to a 3/4 inch barb fitting. This is a 3/4 inch barb fitting right here. This is a pond tube, okay? That goes all the way here, okay? There's a 3¼ inch T, barb T, because the other side comes and connects to this, and then this line right here, the one that comes like this, you see, if you follow my finger, comes, and this right here returns. Now let's go back there. Sorry guys for the shaky stuff, but just a cell phone camera. That runs all the way through there, comes, connects to my water pump, comes from here into my chiller, from the chiller back into my res. Okay, now one of the easiest ways I figured out how to do this water change or clean outs is I put a little quick connect on this end. Okay, as you can see, right, this is coming from the chiller and from the pump, so it's pulling the water from the back of the system. Okay, this will connect, this piece right here quick connects onto here. It's a regular garden hose. This one just runs out in the back, and I have it dumping into the drain, or you can put it in your backyard if it's clean, if it's nutrient water or whatever. Okay, this connects to this, and it just drains out. Now, obviously you can't drain the whole thing out that way, because you will have some water left underneath the level of the bulkhead, because it won't go all the way out. So what I did is I ended up buying a shop vac. I'll put a link to that in the video, that has a built-in water pump and has a hose attachment. So what I do is, same quick connect, I'll take this and I'll hook it up to my shop vac, and I'll start vacuuming the bottoms of the buckets to get all the water out. That's one way of doing it. Yeah, I tried to put holes on the bottom of the buckets to create a drain out system, but from what I realized, even using a 3 1/4 inch Uniseal, the Uniseal was about, I want to say, a little bit lower than the bulkhead. So again, I was going to have about 1/8 of an inch or whatever water left in the system. So I figured if it's not going to fully drain, why create myself, in this case, 20 points of failure, which could cause a disaster and flood the entire area and lose all my water and my plants with it. So I decided not to go with it. Now, how do I do a water change when the plants are in it? Same concept, guys. I'll turn the water pump off temporarily, connect this to my garden hose, and let it start sucking it out. As soon as the water level drops to the bulkhead, like right down here, I don't want it to suck air or else the pump will have a hard time working. As soon as the water level drops, I take my hose, which is attached to a 3-stage filter. I'll start pumping water through here, and the way the cycle works, right? Clean water goes in here, travels all the way to the bottom, gets sucked back in, and dumps out. And for doing that, I ended up buying something to see when the water was clean. I ended up buying this. I'll put a link in the video. It's a $20 or $25 TDS meter. Not very accurate, doesn't matter. The point was not that, because I have a $300 or something Blue Lab up here. So what I do is I'll take this while my plants are in there. I'll lift the bucket and I will drop this lead, one of the leads. Don't drop both leads. I don't know why it doesn't work that well. I'll drop one of the leads in there while the plants are in there, turn it on. See, like if you turn it on, it should say 0. But in this case, say you start off with a ppm of 700 front, then it should read about 720, whatever, give or take here, right? So I will leave this here now, like that, on, okay? And as the water is draining through the garden hose out, and I have the hose filling water from here, this TDS in here will eventually go down to whatever my TDS is, about 200. Obviously, like as soon as this area is cleaned out, it'll just drop to 200. How do you know when all the buckets are clean too, right? That's what I would rely on, that little thing back there. I'll just keep an eye on it. Usually about, if you have a 65-gallon system, say on the bottom you'll have about 20 gallons. So as soon as about 20 to 30 gallons of water has flushed through, you'll notice that TDS drop from like 600 down to 400, 300. And as soon as you see it get to around 200, 220, like I said, that's not a very accurate one, and I wasn't planning on spending another $300-400 buying a new one of this just to do that. As soon as it gets down to a level I'm comfortable with, then I know my water has pretty much filtered out. I will turn this off, stop, dumping it out of the hose, return this back inside, leave the hose back in here, fill my water level back up, and then add my nutrients with dosing pump. I'll make a different video with this in a few days when I actually refill the system and add nutrients. You guys will see how easy it is to let the dosing pump do the work for you. Now, back to cleaning. I just wanted to cover that real quick. So, we dumped all the water out. We let the bleach run 24-hour cycle. If you can, let it do it again, just to clean everything out. Very important. The shop vac you get, if it's a really strong shop vac, I recommend shoving this into the shop vac and letting it suck from here as hard as you can, create a suction. You want it to pull all the water out of here, out of this thing, in this hose, and all the way down there too. You got a lot of gunk that builds up in here. I have recommended using pond tubing, but I'm going to say it's 50-50. I'm thinking about later on just swapping it out to regular flat tubing, because all these ridges and stuff accumulates inside too. So I'd rather not have that deal with that anymore. And a bunch of gunk came out. So again, right, shop vac, pull it out from here as hard as you can for a few minutes until you can see there's no more water coming out. When everything's empty and your tanks are empty, 2 days of bleach running through it should kill pretty much everything. Next thing I do, this is the couple parts I do. Next thing I do is I have this, which is a ozone generating and UV light up here. Okay, I'll put a link in the video. Now that's attached to I have a smart switch down there. Okay. Now, I run this for about an hour and a half in my room. You do not want to be in the room when it's running. You want to turn your lights off, your fans off, everything off. Let the ozone generate. Don't come in the room for a few hours afterwards until the ozone, clears up. It's deadly. It's bad for you. I don't know if it's deadly or not, but at some level, it's not good for you. So you don't look at the UV light. I would recommend putting it on some kind of a smart control switch. Turn it on from the outside. and then let it run for like an hour, and then turn it off, and then wait a few hours until it clears up. You can actually smell the ozone when that's doing that. I did this twice. Now, my thought process was, hey, it's generating ozone, and if my buckets are empty, I should fill in there too, killing some bacteria and germs with it. UV light is hitting the top of my buckets, inside my buckets. That should be help cleaning it also. Now, another friend of mine recommended, I had powdery mildew, of course. Another person who sold me clones gave me as a present, I guess, right, with the clones. I had powdery mildew. Another way to get rid of powdery mildew is heat. 100 plus degrees of heat, okay? So what I would do is, again, empty. So the bleach will be the first part because you have water. You don't want to do all these three things at the same time. So to do the bleach first, get that bleach out of the way. If you only run it for 24 hours, that should still be okay. Afterwards, empty all your buckets, vacuum all your buckets, come down to basically 0 water inside, and then do either the ozone first and then the heat, or it doesn't matter which order you do it in. Now, when it comes to the heat, I crank up my lights to 100%. I have these VivoSun 3-in-3 remote sensors with 3 sensors. I hang one there, one's in this bag, and one is on the floor over there. I use these to monitor from the outside the temperature. I'll put a link for this too. If you're wondering why I have a bag over this is my CO2 sensor, the autopilot one. I don't know if ozone will damage the sensor or not, so I figured I don't want to take a chance, and I didn't want to take this whole thing apart, so I just wrapped it up in a bag and left it there. It worked fine last time around, so I'm guessing it's okay, but just to be safe, I wrapped it so it doesn't get inside. Alright, so crank up the lights. Do it on a hot day if you can, because it helps, right? Okay. So let it heat up the room, 100, 104, and then, like, I don't know, maybe an hour of that temperature, turn your lights off, and you're good to go, right? So that's another thing. Let me see if I covered. So remove CO2 sensor, yeah, high heat, air stones out, yeah, vacuum, got that part. Let me see. Yeah, and I'll put oh, one more thing. I'm glad I wrote it down. So what I went ahead and did is this, okay? I don't plan on using any beneficial bacteria or anything this time around. I tried using Southern AG for beneficials. That's really good, actually helps a lot, but it doesn't completely get rid of cyanobacteria. Like I said, things nasty. So this time I want to keep a complete sterile system. I'm going to use Athena Cleanse during the run. Now I went ahead and bought some UV lights like that one, except it's submersible and doesn't create ozone, and I'm going to put them in my tank. So one over here and one over there, 2 different systems. I'll put a link to the ones I bought. They're like $15. They're cheap. And UV light sterilizes, you know, bacteria and stuff. So by putting it in this tank and letting it run a few hours a day, let's say 4 hours a day, my math is that my entire system recirculates with this pump about 5 to 7 times an hour. My entire system recirculates through here. So the UV light being in here, it should sterilize as much as it can, since the water circulates through here and there's no plants in here. But if you plan on doing any kind of beneficial growth, that UV light will destroy everything that if you put it in your tank. So keep that in mind, okay? So yeah, I think I covered as much as I could, right? Now, another thing I did do, to be honest, is even though I said turn all your fans off and everything for the ozone, that's what everybody recommends. Next time around, what I ended up doing is I did ozone a couple times, actually, since I was doing this whole for 2 or 3 days because I have cyanobacteria. I really wanted to clean this whole system out. Next time around, I figured, let me turn my fans on. I have 2 small fans up top. I have a bunch of fans everywhere. But anyway, like I have 2 of them on the wall there, so on and so on. I turned my fans on low so you could circulate the ozone all around the room and shove it into the buckets and all like that. So you could try that too. That's another thing you could try. But yeah, that's my setup here, and I wanted to cover this whole draining part because it keeps coming up, is how do you change water. Unfortunately, unless you go and buy current cultures, this same system, this cost me like $400 or $500 to build. Each bucket $6, 20 buckets, that's 120. Do the math, right? You have some 2-inch PVC, that's another 20, 30. And this whole thing cost me like not even $500, where this system would cost you like 4,000 or 5,000. Downside is obviously you don't get a drain out kit. You can't, because these buckets are not built for that. Unless you lift them up and put a hole from the bottom, put a uni-seal or some kind of another bulkhead and drain through there. You could do that. It's kind of like I said, I want to have as less holes as possible in case of, like, you know, flooding or whatever. And oh, one more thing off the subject I want to cover. If you guys notice, I have these little, you know, that leak sensor there. I have one over there. I have one everywhere. And it's from Smart Things, and they're like, I don't know, $17. That thing saved me. I turned off my air pump for my air stones off where my water level was too high. It ended up siphoning back out and flooding my area over here. I found out instantly because there's a smart sensor back there. Boom, it went off, got a notification on my phone, came here, you know, turned the pump back on, stopped it from becoming a disaster. Just a side note. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to help you guys out. All right, good luck, happy growing.